Good morning, everybody, and welcome to day 2 of our weekend on deciding and voting on recommendations on gender equality. I hope we can continue with the same enthusiasm and determination as yesterday. I hope that you feel that together we got the balance right between enough time for discussion and also keeping things moving on in terms of deciding. We actually have fewer recommendations to work through today, and we don't have any sequential voting. So I think we've broken the back on the really difficult process yesterday, and that's why we're proposing to follow the same process as yesterday. And I'm asking you again to please keep open the email with the voting codes. So now, without any further ado, and because you've all logged on early in the morning in order that we can use as much time as possible, I'm not going to keep you any longer. We're going to put you into the breakout groups, and you're going to be discussing block F of the recommendations. So they are the recommendations on domestic, sexual and gender-based violence. You have 20 minutes for that, and we'll bring you back at around 9:25 to hear how you got on your discussions on that set of recommendations. So hope you have a productive discussion, and we'll see you in 20 minutes time. Thanks very much. I can see you've been busy already this morning. We have received a number of amendments. We'll hear from the breakout groups now. Everybody will hear together. We will do like yesterday. We will consider them, and we'll come back to you later in the morning with our proposals as to the amendments that we propose to accept. And then if there are any that we don't propose to accept, we'll explain why. So I want to go quickly to each group now to hear whether your group has had enough time, whether there are outstanding issues, whether your group has amendments to propose, etc. So can I start, as always, with Group 1, please?
Thank you, Chair. Citizens in Room 1 have put forward 2 proposed changes to wording, one involving a move to a cabinet minister rather than just a minister. And the other part was that the reference to an independent authority. The citizens wanted to make the point that the independent authority had been proposed in a previous survey, but seems to have been dropped. And just wanted to make the point that it was the citizens in the room who noticed this and wanted to know what had happened there, why was it dropped. And finally, just as we were wrapping up, there was a request from one citizen to have further time to discuss all of the other recommendations within that block.
Thank you. We'll see if anybody else wants more time. I'll come back at the end of that. Thanks very much.
Thank you,
Group
Chair.
1. Group 2?
Thank you, Chair. The citizens at Group 2 were happy with the wording of the questions. However, the majority expressed a concern regarding the phrase domestic violence. Now, we did get a clarification on how that was defined in legislation, but the majority of citizens at Group 2 considered that the phrase domestic violence resulted in the violence being looked at as lesser grade of violence than other violences, and that it dilutes the seriousness of it, but they did not have an alternate suggestion in terms of the wording to make. But the
Okay. Thank you very much. Group 3?
Good morning, Chair. We actually didn't have enough time. We only got as far as 34C, and there was a lot of discussion on 34C, and they would like to introduce the word rehabilitation after sentences. But that was as far as we got then. The other questions weren't discussed.
Okay, thank you very much. Group 4?
Thank you, Chair. So there was some discussion from the citizens in Room 4 on the wording of some of the questions. There was a majority vote to add in to 34C, word tougher to add in, and more appropriate sentences. Other than that, generally, there was a consensus on the recommendations.
Thank you very much. Group 5? Good morning, Group 5.
Apologies, sorry. The citizens in Room 5 had one proposed wording change, and that's to Section 34B, where instead of developing guidelines for the court system, which they felt wasn't strong enough, they wanted to change that to encourage the court system to implement a set of rules regarding the treatment of victims. And the citizens also asked me to mention that they had a long discussion about Section 36, particularly the words "as a grounds for seeking asylum," Some citizens felt that should be removed and others felt it should be left in. But after a vote, a narrow majority felt we should leave it in.
Thank you very much. Group 6.
Good morning, Chair. All of my group were in agreement. There was one change that they wanted to propose, which we have emailed in, and it's under 33, and they wanted just some wording put in, but we have emailed that in, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Group 7.
Good morning, Chair. The citizens at Group 7 were in broad agreement, except for alterations that we have sent in through the EQR to 34 and 35, but they have been submitted.
Okay, thank you very much. Group 8.
Thank you, Chair. The citizens in Group 8 were in unanimous agreement with the wording, with the exception of 4 changes which we've emailed in to the Secretariat.
Thank you. And Group 9, please.
Good morning, Chair. The citizens in Group 9 were unanimously in agreement with the wording. I'm happy to proceed.
Thank you very much. So we have 2 groups who'd like more time. I think that we can give more time given the importance of the topic, and also that we are under slightly less pressure today. So let's take another 10 minutes. We'll put you back into the breakout groups. If your group has finished, you don't need to continue discussing, but the groups that need it, we give you 10 minutes, but no more than that, because you're keeping the other groups waiting, which is fine, but not for too long. So we'll see you back again at 9:44, 9:45, let's say. Okay, thank you. Hi again. So welcome back. We've had some more communication with different breakout groups, so I'm going to run very quickly through the groups just one more time to hear before we move you on to the next block of recommendations. So can we hear, I'll just vary the order this time. Can we hear from Group 9 first, please?
Group 9, we're happy with the wording in that block, and we're happy to proceed.
Thank you. Group 8.
Thank you, Chair. The citizens in Group 8 had 4 changes proposed, which were emailed in. The changes proposed were unanimous, and otherwise the assent to the current wording is also unanimous.
Thank you very much. Group 7.
The citizens in Group 7 were happy to proceed, apart from 2 proposals which we have sent forward.
Okay, thanks very much. Group 6.
Group 6 were happy to proceed, Chair. They had one change which we did email in earlier on, but they're happy to proceed now. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Group 5.
At Group 5, we gave 1 change earlier on, and we have no additional changes beyond that. Or the group has no additional changes.
That's clear. Thank you. Group 4.
Yes, so again, Chair, we had emailed in a change to 34B, but other than that, happy to proceed.
Thank you. Group 3.
Group 3, we're happy with the remainder of the questions, although they have got an addition they'd like to number 34, appointee, which we are emailing into the Secretariat.
Okay, thank you. Group 2, please.
This is a Group 2 had nothing further to add apart from what was stated earlier on.
Okay, thanks very much. Well, we need a bit of time to work through all of these because...
Number one.
Oh, I'm sorry, did I skip number 1? Apologies, number 1, please. I'm glad somebody's keeping an eye on me.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. There were 2 further amendments to recommendation 34, and they have been sent in to the expert advisory group.
Okay, thanks very much. So we need a bit of time now because some of you are asking for some legal guidance on things. So we need a bit of time. So we will work away on that while you are working now on block G. So we're going to put you into your breakout groups to discuss pay and working conditions. The ones that in your ballot paper are labeled block G. And this time you'll have 25 minutes. So we'll bring you back at 10:15. Is that right? Yeah. 10:15, and we'll hear from you then. And in the meantime, we'll be working on the amendments to block, what was it? Block F. Okay, so have a good discussion and we'll see you at 10:15. Thanks. There you all are again. Welcome back. Now we're going to hear from the groups. Most of you are finished, so I take it that you had enough time, but you'll tell me if I'm wrong. Can I start with Group 1 this time, please?
The citizens in Group 1 had further amendments to propose in relation to recommendations 37 and 39, and those have been sent in to the expert advisory group.
We've got them, yes, thanks very much. Group 2, please.
Thank you, Chair. The citizens were happy with question 41. They've submitted amendments in respect of question 37 and 38, and they sought more time to discuss questions 39 and 40.
Okay, thank you. We'll see if anybody else has need for more time as well. Group 3, please.
Thank you, Chair. The citizens in Group 3 were broadly in agreement with everything and had one suggestion on 40A, which we've emailed in.
Okay, thank you. Group 4.
The citizens in Group 4 had some further amendments to 37 and 38, and we've sent those into the Secretariat.
Thank you. Group 5.
Citizens in Group 5 are happy with proposed wordings. We submitted one question, but otherwise happy.
Okay, thanks very much. Group 6.
Good morning, Chair. The group were in agreement. We had 3 under 37, 38 and 39. We just wanted to add in some different wording, change something slightly, which we've emailed in, but everybody was in agreement apart from that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Group 7.
Group 7, there was broad agreement. We have one revision that we have submitted.
Thank you. Group 8.
Thank you, Chair. The citizens in Group 8 had 2 proposals which we've emailed in. The first was a question in relation to 0-hour contracts and the fact that it hasn't been stated at all on the ballot paper. The question is in relation to whether or not it's been addressed or it's being abused, and if it is, they'd like to see some mention of it in the ballot paper to address it. And there was also a proposal in relation to a wording change in question 40A, which we've emailed in.
Thank you. I think you've had an answer to the question on the 0 hours contract in the meantime. And Group 9, please.
Thank you, Chair. The citizens of Group 9 were happy with 40 and 41. They have though offered some revisions for your consideration on 37, 38 and 39.
Okay, so we'll do that now. So we have only one group who feels they need more time. How much time do you think you need? Was that group?
We'll take whatever time we can get, Chair.
5 minutes?
Okay.
So what I think we'll do is we will move you now to block H, and I'll give you an extra 5 minutes in that. So Group 2, you can organize your time between the two, and then when you report back, if you still need more time, you can tell us that. But put the 2 blocks together, because otherwise I have 8 groups waiting for one group to take more time. So we're going to move you now into the breakout groups for the final block, which is Group H. And we will have you back in 35 minutes, which is at 11:55. Is that right? 11:55. Okay, and you can tell us then if you need. Sorry, 10:55. 5 to 11, and we will hear then if you need more time or not. So Group 2, you organize, maybe finish off your discussion on the previous block and then move on to H, and everybody else can start discussing Group H. And we're continuing to work through your amendments, and I'll present them all to you together with explanations when we're finished our work on that. Great, see you in 35 minutes then. Thanks very much. Hi everybody, thank you. We're having quite a few amendments coming in. So we need a bit of time to work on them. What I'm going to do now is the usual, ask the facilitators just to tell us what's been going on in the groups, and then I will tell you what will happen next. So can we hear from Group 1, please?
The citizens in room 1 are happy to go forward to voting, having submitted amendments on 2 of the recommendations in block H. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Group 2?
Thank you, Chair. The citizens at Group 2 are happy with the wording for questions 42, 44 and 45, and they've submitted amendments in respect of questions 43, 46, 47, 48 and 49.
Okay, we'll have a look at them. Thank you. Group 3?
Thank you, Chair. The citizens in Group 3 had a very long discussion on question 48 and asked me to highlight that it could be open to abuse. They would like it to be totally reworded, actually, to include men and women who have limited or no time in the workforce or caring professions and caring professions and should receive a state pension upon reaching pension age. So we've sent it to the Secretary, but they like it highlighted here.
Okay, thank you very much. Group 4.
Thank you, Chair. The citizens in Group 4 had some changes to the recommendations for 43A, 43B and 44. These have been sent in, otherwise they are happy to proceed.
Thank you very much. Group 5.
The citizens in room 5 are happy with the wording of the recommendations. They submitted a couple of questions, but they were answered, so they're happy to proceed.
Okay, thank you very much. Group 6.
Thank you, Chair. The citizens in Group 6 are happy to proceed to the voting. They did ask me they wanted to say a big thank you to yourself and all your team for the excellent staff, including facilitators. And they want to thank everyone for all their hard work and efforts, and they wanted me to note that here. So thank you.
Thank you. That's much appreciated. Group 7.
Group 7 unanimously agreed that these questions should be on the ballot paper.
Thank you. Group 8.
Thank you, Chair. The citizens in Group 8 proposed amendments to the wording in question 46 and 49, which have been emailed in. Those proposals were unanimous. Other than that, they also unanimously approved the wording of all the other questions.
Thank you. That's good to know. And Group 9, please.
The members in Group 9 unanimously agreed on the wording in 42 to 48 inclusive. However, they did have an amendment they would like to present on 49 and a point of clarification, and these have been mailed to the expert group.
Okay, thank you. Well, I haven't been able to go through all the amendments yet, but I can already see that some of them go in opposite directions. So this is going to present an interesting challenge. We can't accept two conflicting amendments. So we need a bit of time now to work on these. You're due to have a comfort break now anyway. So I think we need probably 30 minutes. And I think you won't object to having a 30-minute break. So we'll bring you back at 11:35, please. And I hope by then I'll be able to go through the amendments and tell you which we propose to accept, which we propose not to accept, and why. And then we will go further with our work. So go and have whatever, a cup of tea or coffee or a breath of fresh air or whatever. But please be back at 11:35 when we'll resume again. Thanks very much. Okay, welcome back everybody, and sorry for keeping you longer than we had originally intended. We had 44 amendments, so it's quite complicated to go through them all and to look at the rationale and to also check what is compatible with existing legislation, etc. So just to explain why it's taken so long. What I want to do first is the group that needed more time on the previous recommendations. Do you want to just come in first and tell us, was there anything additional from your extra discussion? That was Group 2, I think, wasn't it?
Yes, it was Group 2.
Yep.
We've made the amendments and we've sent them back, Catherine. So it was
okay. We have them. Yes. Okay, that's fine. We have gone through the amendments. Yes, and what I'm going to do is not comment on every amendment because some of them are duplicates, some of them are in contradiction, but to show you and to explain as we go through them where we are proposing to make changes. So where we're not proposing to make any change, we won't comment on the text, it will stay the original text, but there are a lot of changes that we'll take you through now. So if we could have them up on the screen, please. Okay, so here again, the suggestion came to have the government action coordinated by a cabinet minister, maybe inspired by yesterday's discussion. And then it was also correctly pointed out that we didn't need to use the word coordinating twice. So there the proposal would be to amend as you now see on the screen. Now in this one, a suggestion came that the word public might not be understandable. So what we're proposing to put in is eliminate tolerance in our society. I think that's the best way of describing it. And then another group wanted to add in that the awareness, prevention and education campaigns may include children of an appropriate age. Then we had a lot of proposals to change sorry, have I missed out something here? Yes, to change our recommendation 34. Now I want to explain first of all why we are proposing to stick to the original wording of developing guidelines. This is because in Ireland, in the Constitution, we have what's called a separation of powers. That means that the Oireachtas cannot interfere with the work of the courts, and that is a protection for citizens' rights. So this is why the government is always very careful about what it puts in legislation and how it tries to nudge, prompt, etc., the court to do things in a certain direction. In this area, there is also what's called the O'Malley report, which has gone into the whole area of gender-based violence, and where recommendations are now being taken up on foot of that report. So having discussed, including with our legal experts, we think it's best to keep the words developing guidelines. That is already going quite far, and the courts don't always like it. But we do take up the proposal to include training for the court system. I thought there we were going to put in training, specialist training for judges and lawyers. Oh, we'll put that in because we did agree to put that in. Sorry for that. That's just in all this complication. It's so developing guidelines and specialist training for judges and lawyers, and then delete for the court system. You can see how difficult this gets. Okay, so the judges and the lawyers would get the necessary training, and then we had another proposal among the list of exclusions of things to be considered should be counselling and medical records, which we proposed to accept. Then there was a debate between different groups. Some wanted to replace the word in number C, to take out the word tougher and to put in more appropriate. Now, our expert group finds the words more appropriate very vague. So we would propose to keep in tougher sentences as being, I think, overall representative of the discussions, but we would also take up the proposal for rehabilitation programs for the perpetrators. And I think that balances the tougher sentences there. Then there was a suggestion to have an independent statutory body, which we did not propose to take up because we weren't sure what it would do. But there was another proposal, which was to have a victims commissioner as an independent advocate and voice for victims and survivors. And we proposed to put that in. And I think that that would do a lot of whatever the group that wanted the independent group would have been designed to do. We think that the victims commissioner to be their advocate and voice is probably the correct way to follow up on that suggestion coming from the groups. Then 35, we haven't proposed any changes. But somebody wanted, one group wanted to put in the word proportionally across the country. But just to let you know that in fact, that is already contained in the Istanbul Convention. And that's why we're not proposing to add it in here, because it's not necessary. It's already included in the Istanbul Convention. This we're not proposing to change either. Then 37. Here there was a lot of discussion on different proposals. Here people wanted to propose legislation. Now, here we are talking about the state. Obviously, the state, when we're talking about public employees, the state can decide to close the gap, but the state can set targets for private companies. So what we've done is to take up the thinking behind the suggestion and to say the state should set targets in legislation to reduce the hourly gender pay gap. Then we have included what should happen by adding a date to actually eliminating the entire gap by 2035. So hopefully that will reflect a number of suggested amendments that we got. This is how we have tried to combine them in a revised text. Here, some groups were debating how to go further. Now, the Gender Pay Information Gap Bill is already very close to being finalised and adopted by the Dáil, and it will apply to companies over 50 employees. So we are proposing here not to actually delete the example and to say that it should be implemented without delay. and that it should also include an obligation for annual reporting. I think then on the basis of the reporting, it can be decided in future whether to bring it into play for companies with less than 50 employees. But we're proposing to delete the original wording there, and you'll have the choice between the original and the revised wording. Now here, there is a discussion to be had on which companies should be affected. The definition of small and medium-sized companies is actually quite big, because small applies to less than 50 employees, medium-sized is between 50 and 250, which tends to be actually quite large companies in the Irish context. So what we would propose to say here is to explain that the minimum wage should be aligned with the living wage by 2025, while considering potential impacts on small businesses. In other words, those employing less than 50. Any company above 50 employees should be required to align the minimum wage with the living wage by 2025 would be the consequence of the recommendation if you want to revise it. Here, the suggestion was to ensure that the legal right to collective bargaining should apply in all sectors. So we proposed to poll you on that. And there were one group wanted to add further explanations, but about the obligations of employers and access to negotiating with employers. But all of that is already contained in the legal right to collective bargaining. So we don't feel it's necessary to spell out in further detail. So we're proposing just to make the one adjustment here and to remove low paid, to apply the recommendation to all sectors. And then in the introduction to this, we would propose to remove the word greater, which is a qualification in a way, and simply say support employment contract security through establishing the right for all sectors. 41 here, we propose to say social protection payments and or supports, just to extend the remit of the recommendation. There were suggestions to say lift people out of poverty, but in terms of the legal and technical way in which these things are couched, it's the reference to above the poverty line is already established and seems to be more operational. And in B, we propose to delete, this came from one of the groups, to propose to delete giving a choice in how they receive payments, to leave that unsaid here, but to be clear that prioritizing dignity and respect in all contexts with clients should be done by regular training of staff. Here there were also different suggestions, so we propose to give a sense of urgency to this recommendation and to say immediately address the impact of the marriage bar on pension eligibility and to take further retrospective corrective action. There were a few suggestions as well which would just elaborate on this, but we think it's best to keep it simple and direct and not to go into the detail that will come whenever action is to be taken. Here, we're taking up in a slightly different way suggestions about auto-enrollment, where we say subject to a threshold on low incomes. That means below a certain income level, people would not have to contribute. And the opt-out clause is a feature of these kind of systems anyway. So we propose just to put that in as well. So the recommendation would be subject to a threshold below which people would not be automatically enrolled, and there would also be an opt-out clause. Now 49, as you know, I think this is an important statement to be included in the final sets of recommendations. We had a number of suggestions here, but I have to say to you as your chair, I think that we need to stick to a fairly general statement on this question. I think if we are not clear and if we try to refine it too much, we undermine the credibility of the whole exercise. So my recommendation to you is to stick to the original wording. However, if you don't want to follow my recommendation, which is fine, then I think we should make a number of limited changes to the text. And what I would propose to add, based on the contributions that we've received, would be a reference to accountability for public funding. And also, instead of saying that we are prepared to pay higher taxes, we would say we are also prepared to support and pay higher taxes, which broadens out the implication of the statement. But I really think all of the 48 recommendations will be taken much more seriously if a clear statement is included. But obviously, like everything else, it's up to you, and that will be for you to come back and say what you want. But my recommendation to you is to stick to the original wording. So now we will send these the text of the revised recommendations, and there are a lot of them, but we will send them to each group so that you'll be able to see them for your discussions. I propose to give you 20 minutes to discuss the amendments and then bring you back. If you need more time, we will give you more time, but let's start with 20 minutes and see how you get on. So we'll call you back, and this time we will call you back at 12:30. So because we've now given you our take on the amendments, it's up to you now to have a discussion and then come back with your reactions. So we'll bring you back at 12:30. Thanks again. Welcome back, everybody. We have now had further amendments from some of the groups, and again, we need time to go through them. So I'm going to give a few explanations here that I've been just able to pick up. Some of them were why did we not comment on previous recommendations. I'll comment on some more of them. I'm then going to ask each of the groups to report, and then we're going to let you off for lunch because we need time to look at the new round of amendments and see whether we can take them on board or not. So one question was, why didn't I mention recommendation 48, which is the recommendation on a universal state pension. I'm sorry, I was remiss about that. There were two, we are not proposing to change the original wording. There were two recommendations. One was to eliminate the recommendation because one group was worried about a possibility of abuse. I think I have to say that there's always a possibility of abuse, but it's not a reason not to do things that are positive and desirable. It's important for the state to safeguard against abuse, but I think it's overkill to knock out the whole idea just because there might be a risk of abuse. There's a risk of abuse with almost anything. So we didn't propose to delete it, but you will decide when you get to voting whether you want that recommendation, whether you want to vote yes or no to that recommendation. The other proposal that was made was about introducing different references, and the whole, we feel that the universal pension that is suggested here is designed to take account of the needs of carers who are not necessarily paid carers. People who have done a lot of caring without necessarily having PRSI contributions, who should nonetheless receive a pension because of the contribution they've made to society. And we don't feel that it's necessary to add in any more detail. So that's why we are proposing to leave the wording unchanged. You will have the opportunity, if you're not happy with it, to vote against it when we come to voting, or to vote in favour of it. Then on 43B, there was a question, do people currently have a choice about how they receive their payments? Yes, they do. You can go to the post office and get the money, or you can have it paid into your bank account. But we have deleted the reference to choice over a method of payment because it already exists. And on the targets in legislation, another group asked, why will it take time? Why can't it be immediate? Well, we have made the suggestion that it should be, we had originally said set targets. It takes a bit of time for the state to set them, and then for them to be implemented, companies would have to adjust to it. We have given you alternative wording, which is to make the targets stronger by setting them in legislation, but equally that would take time. So there's no instant solution to this. These things take time. Payrolls have to be adjusted. The issues have to be proposed, argued over, and then decided. So it's not possible to do it instantly. Those are the three things on which I can kind of give you an immediate reaction. So it's now 12:43. I'm going to ask each group just to report back if there are other issues, and then we will break for lunch and we'll come back with a final round of any amendments that we think we should offer you. At some point, I think we have to stop proposing amendments. That's what I meant when I said yesterday we have to balance the need to discuss things thoroughly and properly, which I really believe we have done, versus the need to, come to fruition on all of this. So I think when I come back after lunch, we will tell you if there are any final recommendations that we think we can take on board. Then we will Zoom poll you on whether you want the original wording in each case or whether you want the revised wording. And I know some people are happy with some parts and not others. You will always have the opportunity to vote no to the recommendation if you don't like the revised wording or if you don't like the original wording. So when we come back after lunch, we will Zoom poll you first of all on whether you want the original wording or the revised wording to be on the ballot paper. And then we will ask you, do you want, if you choose the revised wording, we will ask you whether it should be on the ballot paper or not. And then we will move to voting. So we still have quite a lot of work to do in the afternoon, but I feel having been at it since 9 o'clock, everybody needs a break in the next few minutes, and then we'll come back with renewed energy and finish our work. So can I just go through the groups, and I'll start with group 9 again, just to vary it a little bit. So group 9, is there anything to report from your latest discussion?
No, the members in room 9 were broadly satisfied with the wording and all of the questions. We're happy to proceed to the next stage.
They're happy to go to the Zoom polling. Okay, thanks very much. Group 8.
Thank you, Chair. The citizens in Group 8 had two additional recommendations. One was a change to the wording in question 37. They don't feel the word should remain in there. And there was still, the citizens also unanimously wished to change the last sentence, the wording of the last sentence for question 49. In relation to, I think that it was sent in, the specifics have been sent in.
Thank you. Group 7.
The citizens in Group 7 have no new queries.
Thank you. Group 6.
Thank you, Chair. The citizens of Group 6 wanted to just keep some wording in 43B, which we've emailed in, and they were very happy with the wording of your willingness to pay on number 49, and they're happy to proceed to voting.
Thank you. Group 5.
Thank you. The citizens in Group 5 are happy with the revised wordings on the basis that generally they strengthen the recommendations.
Thank you. Group 4.
Thank you, Chair. The citizens in Group 4 were broadly happy with the revised wording and are happy to proceed to voting.
Thank you very much. Group 3.
Thank you, Chair. The citizens in room 3 had an issue around question 36. They would like the insertion of the word threat, recognise a threat. And also they wanted clarification around question 48, but I think you've provided that already. And we have emailed them into the Secretariat.
Thank you. Group 2.
Thank you, Chair. The citizens on Group 2 were happy with questions 33, 32, 33, 34, 36, 38, 39, 40, 43, 46, and 47. They had 3 issues. 37, you've addressed in your discussion at the start of the session. 48, the addition they had suggested, which I don't think was addressed, was the addition of, and that pension funds are ring-fenced and protected. And
thank you. Let me just come back to that. We're not talking here about a pension fund. The state doesn't fund. The state pays pensions out of its ongoing capacity. So private sector companies have pension funds, but the state doesn't have a pension fund. It comes out of state obligations. So we did not accept that because it simply doesn't work in a state-funded system. I apologize, I forgot to say that.
Thanks very much, Chair. And then in terms of 49, they were happy to go with the original wording. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And Group 1?
Thank you, Chair. The citizens in room 1 had a point for clarification, which was sent in, and I believe we got a response on that in relation to 43. with regard to recommendation 46, there was a process going on of redrafting a further amendment to that because it was felt it didn't go strong enough on supporting the women impacted. We just ran out of time, the room just ran out of time on that one. And there was a point in relation to the final statement in 49. It was felt that that it was less clear than the amended version that was proposed by Room 1 earlier on. That was it.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, look, I think it's time for everybody to have a break now. So it's coming up to 10 to 1. Let's say you come back from lunch at 1:30. And we hope we'll be able then to have some further clarifications for you and then move to the Zoom polls. Okay, so bon appetit and see you at 1:30. Most all of the groups are happy now to proceed to the Zoom polling, but there were just a few additional amendments that I want to comment on before we do that. So taking them in order, on recommendation 36, one group wanted to introduce the word threat of FGM as opposed to the actuality of it. But that's not the international practice at the moment, and it's very difficult to prove a threat. So we're proposing not to take that wording. If people are unhappy with the recommendation, then you have the option of, you always have the option of voting against it. In 37, one group wanted to delete the word should, but we need a verb in order for something to happen. So we're proposing to keep the amended wording with the word should in so that the government understands what we want them to do. On recommendation 43B, we've been trying to check with social protection. I understand that there are most benefits. You have a choice of either having them paid into your bank account, going to the post office to get them, or having checks paid to you. But there are some limited cases where the department decides not to apply choice. So therefore, we are going to show you an amendment to that slide, if Lena can put it up now. You remember that the original wording already had it. No, that's not the right one. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. So we're proposing not to delete it because I think it was the majority view that people should have a choice. And so we're going to keep that in and then just add by regular training of staff, which was the other suggestion from that group. So I hope that that gives you now the choice that will allow you to exercise your choice between old and new wording. On recommendation 46, one group was very keen to have a changed wording. This is their changed wording. Immediately address the impact of the marriage bar by automatically qualifying women affected for a state pension. We will give you the choice. We'll poll you on that in a minute, and you can choose between that or the original wording. On section 49, there were still one or two suggestions, but I found them too complicated. And what I'm proposing is that we stick with the choice of either the original wording or the revised wording. You can say on the Zoom poll which you prefer, and then whether you want it on the ballot paper or not. So now we're going to go straight to the Zoom polling. We're going to ask you, first of all, to choose between the original wording or the revised wording, in each case in all three blocks. So this will be, quite tedious, but necessary. Once we have your answers, and in the cases where you vote for the revised wording, we will then need 10 minutes to adjust the slides in the Zoom poll for whether you want the revised wording to go on the ballot paper or not. That will be fairly quick to go through, and then we will move to voting. So the end is in sight. It will still take a bit of time. I still ask for your patience again, because we'll have to do a bit going backwards and forwards. And we've asked Tony to give an extra explanation before we start the voting on just what you should look out for. And he will be on hand once we put you to voting. He will be on hand for anybody who has any concerns or difficulties. He'll be able to talk you through them. Mary Claire is just scribbling me a message.
We'll need time to change the e-voting system as well. We won't be able to go straight from
the
Zoom poll.
We won't be able to go straight from the second Zoom poll into the voting, but there we will need another, say, 10 minutes just so that the voting system has the correct revised wording. So again, I'm sorry, this is not the most exciting part of the Citizens' Assembly, but it is the only part that will get us to you actually voting and indicating your preferences. So I think we're nearly there, but it just takes a little bit more of this dance of backwards and forwards. So we're going to take now immediately the Zoom polling on whether you want the original wording or the revised wording. So we're starting with block F. So you have the original wording in the paper version that you've received. This is the revised wording. So we want you now to respond in Zoom to whether you want the original wording or the revised wording. Can we have the poll now, please, Darren? Thank you. Okay, so we have the result on that. 23% for the original wording, 77% for the revised wording. Okay. Then we come to 33. Here you have the revised wording. We're going to say in our society instead of public, and we're going to add in, which may include children of an appropriate age. Again, if you can indicate your preference between the original wording and the revised wording, please. Okay, we have a result. Revised wording, very clear. Okay. Next we come to 34, which was long because we had quite a number of changes there. So I won't read it all out. You see we have made changes in B and C, and we have added an extra E. So you will be also, we won't ask you again whether you want E on the ballot paper. If you say yes to including E now, we assume that you want it on the ballot paper. So could you now answer the following questions, please? And the result is the revised wording in the cases where it's relevant and strong support for adding E to the ballot paper, so that we will do that. Next one, please, Lena. I think it should be 37. Here we have explained we're keeping the word should because we need a verb, but we're now going to strengthen the recommendation by asking for the targets to be set in legislation, and we have included an end date. So could you indicate which version you prefer, original or revised, please? And we have a result which is in favor of the revised wording. Okay. Then we move on to the number 38 and 39, where we've had some discussion. You can see the changes to eliminate the addition of the reference to the over 50 and adding in the obligation for annual reporting, and explaining that 39 should apply to considering the potential employment impacts on small businesses. Can we ask you to give your views on that, please? And the results are, again, the revised wording is preferred. Very good. Then we move on to number 40. Here we remove the word greater and we change from low paid to all sectors. Can we ask for your opinion on those two changes, original wording or revised wording? And the results, revised wording again, yep. Okay, 43. Here, as we say, we want to preserve the possibility for the clients to have a choice, and we've added in the reference to regular training of staff. So can we poll you on this, please? And the results are again in favor of the revised wording. Now, this one you haven't seen before because we've just put it up. So take maybe another minute to look at it compared to the original wording. And now we'll ask you to give your preference, please, original or revised wording. And we have a result there. Revised wording, yes, that was what will go on the ballot paper if you agree. And then 47, where we explain that there should be a threshold and an opt-out clause. Can we poll, please? Thank you. Okay, we have a result. Yep, revised wording. And 49, this is the revised wording that we suggest. So you've seen that already. Can we now have the poll, please, for whether you want the original wording or the revised wording? Okay, so can we see the result on this, please? We took a little bit longer because the result is much closer. Well, a little bit is a lot closer here, but there's still a clear majority in favour of the revised wording. So as always, we will go with the majority. And in a few minutes, we will poll you on whether you want all the questions that we've just looked at with all the revised wording where you have voted for that, whether you want all those questions on the ballot paper or not. So just give us maybe 10 minutes, I think we need, and then we'll come back to you for the second and last Zoom poll of the day. We're now ready, and I really do appreciate the patience, and thank you for chatting among yourselves.
We're ready for the next assembly, Catherine. That's what it is.
Well, you certainly have completed your apprenticeships with flying colours. So you're raring to go. We're now going to Zoom poll you on each of the recommendations from blocks F, G, and H. And so in each case, we're just asking you to say yes or no, you want this question on the ballot paper. So the wording that you will see is the original wording where no changes were made, or the agreed revised wording where changes have been made. So we'll run through them. That will take a bit of time. We then need 20 minutes to transfer the results to the voting system. But what I'm going to do is when you come back to vote, I'm going to bring forward my concluding remarks, which are very short, so that once you go into voting, you're free to leave the meeting once you have voted. That means that it's more under your own control. So first of all, we'll do the Zoom poll on blocks F, G, and H. We then need 20 minutes. That'll be the last time we ask for your patience. And then after that, we'll proceed to the voting. And Tony will give his little introduction to voting and then be on hand for anybody who needs a bit of extra help or questions answered, etc. So let's start with the Zoom polling now with question 32 from block F. So here you have questions 32, 33A, and 33B. Take the time to read them. And now we'll poll you on whether you want these questions on the ballot paper. Okay, so at least 80 have voted. Yes, that's very clear. Then we move on to question 34, which has 4 parts. Remember that you've already agreed that the new E on the Victims Commissioner, that should go directly onto the ballot paper. So you're not voting on that now. This is the revised wording for 34A, B, C, and D. Okay, there we have clear results. Okay, then we move to the next one, which is 35 and 36, if you agree that they both go on the ballot paper. Okay, and the results are yes in favor of the revised wording. And on the ballot, sorry, on the ballot paper with the revised wording. Then we come to 37, 38 and 39. Okay, so can you, okay, very clear results. And we come to question 40, A and B, and 41. Again, if you can just indicate your preferences. And we have results there. 2 yes, all to be on the ballot paper. Next, block H. Now we're in 42 and 43. I just want, in the same openness and transparency that we've tried to have throughout this process, in 43B, so the very bottom one, we have slightly reworded it. It doesn't change the substance, but somebody pointed out to us that where we had put the reference to training staff, it didn't make sense. It looked like we were going to train staff on the choice in payments, whereas in fact, I think what you want to say is regularly train staff to prioritise dignity and respect in all contexts, including giving a choice in how they receive payments. So just, we've slightly amended that wording just to make it work more grammatically correctly. That's all. It's not a change of substance, but just to be totally above board with you as always. So could we get your preferences on this now, please? Okay, we have a result there. Yep, that's very clear. Then we move on to 44, 45 and 46. And again, your preferences, please. We have a result. Yes, they will all be on the ballot paper. And then we have 47 to 49. 47, 48. Your preferences on these? Okay, they'll both be on the ballot paper. And then the last one is question 49 with the revised wording. So can we have your preference on this one, please? There you go. One final question before you actually do the critical thing of voting. Okay, so large agreement, it should be on the ballot paper. All right. Now, one further thing I just want to check with you. Somebody has pointed out that in recommendation 36, we have forgotten to do what we have done elsewhere, which is every time we mention victims, we mention survivors, or where we mention survivors, we mention victims. So I think we should be consistent in our language throughout. This is the terminology we actually consulted the legal side of the advocacy organizations, and they say the accepted terminology is victims stroke survivors. So if you don't disagree, I would propose that on the ballot paper it will read victims / survivors, just to be consistent throughout. If that's in agreement, I think it's important to be consistent. So we'll now take, I think we need 20 minutes just to make sure that the voting questions that you'll be asked to vote on are totally aligned with the revised wording. This is the most important thing. So we need to check 2 or 3 times just to make sure it's absolutely right. So if you could come back at just past 2:30, say 25 to 3, we will then, Tony will give his explanation of the voting system. I will then make my concluding remarks, and then we will finally allow you to vote after all the work, to vote on everything that you haven't already voted on, and then you can leave the meeting at your own pace. But I will, in my concluding remarks, I will explain our thinking about next Saturday as well, when we hope as many as possible can join us. So we'll see you at 25 to 3, for that. This is the last break that you'll be having. So again, thanks for bearing with us so patiently. So let me just say a few concluding remarks. I'm going to save my big concluding remarks for next week, but I don't want to end this meeting just by saying now, please go off and vote, and then that'll be the end of it. So what I want to do today is to thank you from the bottom of my heart, all of you, for a remarkable experience. I heard the chat before we started this morning, and somebody said this was a happy and a sad day. And I think that's a very good summary. It's a happy day because we've all worked so hard to get to this point where you're now going to vote and formally adopt your recommendations. That's the happy part. But the sad part is that we come to the end of what has been a really collective and fascinating journey. And I'm delighted that you're talking about setting up a WhatsApp group, that you want to stay in touch, because I think going through an experience like this has really forged some bonds that will last for a long, long time. For me, from the very first meeting, you have all been committed and serious and determined to use the opportunity of participating in the Assembly to make a difference. So what you're doing is an act of public service. I'm full of admiration for the way that you've stuck with the process. You've given up so much of your personal and your family's time, and you've been very accommodating of the changes that we had to make to go online and to make all of this work online. You turned up for evening meetings. You got up early yesterday and today, and you did it all with great good humour, respect for each other, and a really keen sense of what really matters. So I really am full of admiration for all of that. Now, next Saturday, the 24th of April, we will let you know the results of your votes. We will send you details during the week of exact timings and how to join us. But at the moment, we're thinking of starting at 10 o'clock next Saturday, when we will hold a special private session for members of the Assembly, so that you are the first people to hear how the votes went, which recommendations were carried and by what amounts. That will actually be the last time that you'll be seeing each other all together on the screen, because the same Saturday, maybe around 11 or 11:30, we haven't quite decided yet, but we'll let you know, we want to invite you to a public closing ceremony. And you will be able to use the link that we will send you to share that with your friends and family if you want them to see the closing session of what you have been doing in secret, hidden away in the bedroom all this time since last January, 12 months. So I really hope that that'll be an opportunity for you and whoever you'd like to have join us to conclude our work and to tell the media, the public, and I hope we'll have some politicians watching as well, to know what is the outcome of all the work that you've done so well together. You know that I would love to have done this in person. I would love to have done it back in Dublin Castle where we started, but it's still not possible. But we do intend, and I can't say when, but we do intend to get you together when we are allowed to meet in a group of around 100 people. And it will be in a nice place, I guarantee that. Where exactly will depend on when we can do it, but we will have a chance to see each other in person and to have a good laugh and a bit of nostalgia, and maybe also to see who has listened to the very strong recommendations that we will be shortly sending. We will be in touch during the week with the details. We will be looking for some volunteers to do a few things to help us with the closing ceremony, but the Secretariat will be in touch to tell you all of that. Next week, I will have an opportunity to express my own thanks to you, but also to your families, because they have also had to make a sacrifice of not having you with them on weekends and being willing to allow you to lock yourselves away and absent yourself for so many Saturdays. But I do want, in finishing today, to say a particular thank you to the Secretariat. I think they did a wonderful job. I know that you share that view as well. They have been absolutely marvellous from start to finish. They took on every challenge head on, and they found really creative and ingenious solutions. I'm in awe of the creativity that they have displayed. I'm also very envious of the way that they stayed very calm and remarkably good humoured in the face of everything that Zoom and COVID threw at them, and it was a lot. You didn't see a lot of the work going on behind the scenes and the very detailed planning that made it possible for us, the first online citizens' assembly in Ireland, to work so well, and in particular to deliver what I think is a seriously good set of recommendations. I've enjoyed the whole experience. It's been a wonderful opportunity for me to meet you all and to work together on such a worthwhile topic. So I will say a lot more next Saturday, but I didn't want to end without saying thank you to you and to the Secretariat, because without the members and the Secretariat, we would never have come so far, and we wouldn't have been able to do the terrific work that we've done. So now,
very quickly, sorry, Catherine, very quickly from all the citizens, I'm sure they echo this. Thank you, Dr. Catherine Day, for your tremendous support, for your amazing guidance and leadership through this process. So we just want to thank you here
thank
for
you
all
very
your
much.
efforts.
Thank you. It's been a real privilege. And as I say, I'm delighted to have gotten to know you all and to have done this work together. But you're not quite finished yet, because now you have to take the ultimate responsibility, the individual responsibility of voting on the things that we discussed today. So I'm going to now invite you to move into voting on blocks F to H. As Tony has just said, you can click on the blue button in the original email or in the email that he sent you this morning. You have 45 minutes to vote, but you can leave as soon as you have voted. So this is goodbye for now. We will see you again next Saturday, but now you move to the voting, and please just be careful that you have voted on everything that you want to vote on. I really look forward to seeing you again next Saturday for a final roll of the dice and farewell, and in particular to inform you about the outcome of the voting. If anybody isn't able to make it next Saturday, we will record the public event and it will be on the website. So if you want to look at it because you've missed it, or you want to share it with people, it'll be on the website shortly afterwards. But again, a heartfelt thank you from all of us here. Goodbye, and a very big thank you. And I hope we see as many as possible next Saturday. Take care.
Thank you very much, Catherine.
Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks, Catherine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.